Good. Hello, everyone. My name is Lawrence, founder at The Companion, The Companion. I think that's the first time I've ever said that in public. I sometimes say it to the T, so you could tell I'm pumped. And because I'm also today's host for a very special Stargate celebration, I think this is going to be the largest Stargate fandom collaboration in history. And I hope actually this will be the first of many more to come. Now, this event is being broadcast live on 5 YouTube channels, including the Stargate OG GateWorld with Darren, an absolutely incredible Stargate resource. David at Dial the Gate. David is another OG in the Stargate fandom. And also some newer folks, including Jay and Matt from Sidetrack, and my favorite gals, Stargate gals, Rebecca and Athena Tano at Three Fry Short. And of course, it's being broadcast also on The Companion. Otherwise, how would I be talking to you now? Okay. Oh, the live chats from every channel are being pulled through to our screens here so we can see them. So make sure you leave lots of lovely comments. And I do want to say there are many other amazing partners and friends that we couldn't quite fit into this one event. So if you love what we're doing today, we'd love to start a new tradition to be able to bring those friends into future celebrations. But focusing on today, if you're not familiar with any one of the channels or podcasts or websites I just mentioned, please check them out. And if you like what they do, subscribe and follow their channels. You know the classic saying, the rising Atlantis tide lifts all puddle jumpers. Is that right? Or is it the rising tide lifts all? No, I think I was right before. The rising Atlantis tide lifts all puddle jumpers. It's cleaner that way. So I want to kick off the event first by bringing in our guest of honor, the Companion's creative advisor, my mentor, Brad Wright.
Hey, Lawrence.
Brad, how are you?
I'm good, man. I'm good.
I joined Tech Check
I have
late.
all this setup of in my office with microphones and cameras, and we defaulted to the iPad because it was the only thing that worked. But here I am.
I'm pretty sure this happens every time we do something.
Yeah.
Not on your side. My internet.
Oh no, I think it was my fault again.
Okay.
It's probably a button I didn't press or something.
Oh, it's gonna be really fun. This is what it is. Yeah. It's a celebration. It's a party. Who knows what can happen? A dog will wander through in the background, I'm sure. Well, Brad, like all events that we've done together, I know fans will inevitably ask you about, a new Stargate. They're holding out hope that you're going to be at the helm. And you may know, you may not know, there's been a lot of talk right now that Amazon has a panel today at New York Comic-Con. And, there's always going to be speculation. Is there new Stargate or some kind of announcement? So I wanted to first give you the floor to clear up anything about what we can say or can't say. And obviously we can talk about it now.
Well, MGM did call me to write a pilot for a new Stargate 4 years ago now. And then a whole bunch of things happened that were out of my control and even out of MGM's control. And when MGM was purchased by Amazon, it was like after the pilot I had written had been sitting on the shelf all through the pandemic. And Amazon is a different company, so they were thinking bigger, and so they are very likely to want Stargate is one of their 10 poles. I mean, it just makes sense. It's an MGM property that, did very well for them and still does very well for them. But they'll probably want to go bigger. And they're not consulting me. Like, nobody's phoning me and say, hey, Brad, what do you think? So I get that. It makes sense. It's not the old MGM. So I'm in the dark. In fact, some of the people who are going to be asking me questions today, I think know more about what's going on with Amazon than I do. So, I'm cautious to say anything because maybe they will call me, but they haven't yet. And that's fine. It's their property. They own it. And it's not like I haven't done my share of Stargate. So I'm fine with it. I'm very happy that it will continue. And I don't know when it will continue or in what form. Probably a movie. But I haven't got a call yet even about that. So I'm as in the dark, but also eager to see what happens as everybody else.
Well, through our conversations and emails and exchanges, I am #Team Brad. Not to say like I would hate, any kind of new Stargate or MGM or anything, but we're always here to support you. At least I'm here to support you, right? You know that.
I do.
Okay. All right.
It's nice. It's nice that it's nice that there's this ongoing online thing about, me being involved. But I also have to say, and I say this every time, it was never just me, guys. It was, Jonathan, Rob Cooper has an enormous impact on this show. Paul and Joe, Carl Binder, Martin Garrow, a whole bunch of people, a whole whack of people made Stargate, not just me.
No, for sure. Okay, well, so Brad, I'm going to give you a quick rundown, and I'm going to give the viewers a quick rundown of how today is going to work, since there's a lot of people waiting to join us in the back. And this is going to be around an 89-minute event. Is that right, Brad?
89, yes.
89 minutes.
And make sure to pee
we
before
started 8 minutes late, so you have to go fast. So basically, we're going to start off with a 10-minute roundtable discussion with you and all the other channel partners. I'm going to then take everyone backstage, and I'll bring each channel back on one by one, and they'll each have 15 minutes with you to interview you, except for us, the companion. We're only going to take 10 minutes in order to make that 89-minute math work, as my promise to you. And I also know some of the channels had some of their fans send in questions, or they might have, unique kind of little segments that I want to give anything away. So that might happen. But essentially, each channel and their community will have a dedicated 15 minutes with you. And for the purposes of hosting the event, when there's about a minute left in each segment, I'll like kind of pop back in, my head will pop in and kind of give people a little 1-minute counter and then bring in the next channel. Okay. Sound good?
Sure.
All right. So time to bring in our panelists, and this will be in the order in which the segments are going to happen. Okay. So first up, we have Jay and Matt from Sidetrack.
Hello, Matt.
Hey, guys. And next up, we've got Rebecca and Athena Tano from 3 Fries Short.
Hi, Rebecca and Christina.
Hello.
And then we've got David Reed from Dial the Gate.
Hello, sir. Good to see you again.
There you are. Your face was frozen for the longest time.
Oh, no. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah, I can hear you fine.
Okay, good.
And of course, we've got Darren from GateWorld.
Darren.
Hey, hi, everyone.
All right. Thank you so much for joining and being part of the first ever Stargate Celebration. Pretty cool, right? So everyone here loves the show that you created, Brad, all these years ago. So first, Brad, I'd love to know your experience. I'd love to hear your experience as to how almost like this entire industry of online entertainment, as you can see, has been created. That's been spun off of your show. If you have any thoughts on that.
It's interesting because when Stargate began, we were like going online and seeing things, but you had to go to news groups, you had to really work for it. It was not just, and then, I think there was Stargate SG1.com for MGM, and then GateWorld popped up, and it was this thing that it was like, hey, what a GateWorld thing. It was this cool thing. And so nearly from the beginning, there was this growing online presence. And then, but the shocker, and I don't even know, shocker is the wrong word, but maybe the cool thing about it is that it has continued. The life of Stargate Online has continued long after the show. And people are constantly, it trended yesterday on X. I want to call it Twitter, but I guess it's X. But it was trending. And that's pretty cool all by itself. Because it's been a while since we were on the air.
Yeah, I think that shows the kind of love and admiration, basically the legacy that you've created, really. So Darren, I'm going to go to you first. Can you tell us a little bit about, like what Brad was alluding to, the origin of GateWorld, and you started popping up, and really how far it's come, right? It's still the source for Stargate.
It's been a really amazing ride, to be honest. GateWorld is celebrating its 24th birthday in a couple of weeks, right? So it's been the majority of my adult life. I don't even have any children that are that age yet. But because we're talking about fandom and we're talking about history, I want to start by giving a shout out to the website that preceded GateWorld. There was a big fan site. Brad, I don't know if you remember this. I think it was sg1.net, and it was a high school kid, and
Right.
I think MGM ended up basically buying his site and bringing him on, and then he had a set visit in season 4, and then
I remember that. Well, I don't remember his name.
there were pictures on. I can't remember his name. I apologize if he's watching, but the story was he went off to film school, and MGM bought his site, and as these things tend to happen, it disappeared. And it was kind of lost to internet history. So I've been really proud that GateWorld has survived as long as it has, in part because, well, number one, because of Brad's support and the support of the studio, the support of MGM and everybody at Bridge. We couldn't do what we do if we didn't have their support. My first set visit was in season 8. And if we didn't have people who wanted to, watch the show and then come online and talk about it and read news and maybe even some spoilers now and again. So it's been an incredible ride. It's been really wonderful.
Thanks, Darren.
24 years. That's amazing.
Yeah.
You were a kid. You had to be a kid when you started.
I was 1 year out of college. I think I was 23.
Wow.
Right. Oh, it's awesome. Well, David, I know you've been also a pretty big force in GateWorld too, but I wanted to ask you really about your channel, Dial the Gate. And I can't believe it's on to season 3 already. Awesome. And the finale is coming up with Michael Shanks in a few weeks. So anyone likes Michael Shanks, check that out. So David, tell us about GateWorld. Oh, I'm sorry. Dial the Gate.
Dial the Gate.
My bad.
Actually, Brad was one of the reasons why I started this thing, because he and I had been talking about doing some content way back. I actually got to sit down and interview him at GateCon. I'm still hoping that interview is going to be coming out at some
it's like
point
an hour
here.
and a half interview. That
It was a great 90 minutes. And when COVID happened, I was spending a lot of time on YouTube, and I discovered the Archive of American Television, which is this amazing free library of just interviews from everyone in the business. And they were like Joe Rogan format at the time. They were 2 and 3 hours long. And we're nearing a few months into COVID, and it's like, now all these actors are being, so many of them are Luddites, are being forced to learn Zoom. So that was the end, where it was like, we can just sit down and I can start archiving these stories through YouTube for the world and for free. And we're now at, I'll be clearing the hurdle of 230 episodes this month, and we're finishing with Michael Shanks. So it's been an enormous amount of material. And I'm so thankful to everyone who has contributed to it, because it has just changed my life and changed how I look at this show that I thought I knew so well. And so many people come on who just expand that corpus of knowledge. So we're busy transcribing all these episodes right now, but Brad, I'd still love to have you on one-on-one.
When you first asked me, I was right in the heat of everything that was happening with there was literally nothing I felt I could talk about. in the current time, because I thought, oh, it's still going to happen, because MGM still wanted it to happen, and and then things started going away, and and then I didn't want to talk about it.
Right. No, and I don't blame
But
you.
I'm okay now. I'm okay.
Okay.
Now.
Yeah. Have you seen any of the work that we did with Rob and some of the others?
I saw the one with Paul and Joe. I saw the one with Rob. I watched it. It was cool.
Yeah.
I'm cool. You know way more about the show than,
well,
I'm
so thankful to the journey that you provided all of us. And one of the things that I was, I'll be real quick, is in discovering is that, you guys created content that meant something, but especially in talking to Rob, that wasn't necessarily the goal. You guys were just entertaining people. Yeah. And, that's really the perspective that I've taken on. So thank you.
Brad, David's catching up to you. He's going to hit that 300 episode mark soon.
That's true. That's
all
true.
right.
I bet ours costs more to make. That's the only difference.
Jay and Matt, it feels like just yesterday we first started hearing about Sidetrack. And what, it's been 3 years now, is that right? Jay, what made you first want to get started in this space?
I started my first YouTube channel during COVID because I had nothing better to do, and but I was talking about like mysteries and things, and nobody watched, and I started to get people getting really angry at me because we didn't always agree with their version of the story. So I thought, no, instead of having this YouTube channel where people shout at me, why don't I talk about something I love? And I started talking about sci-fi, and we were able to monetize the channel in 6 weeks. It took me 2 years to monetize my first channel, but and then just through sheer luck, we started to get some information that was just really cool information about what was going on with Stargate and a few other things. But for me, I just love talking about stuff that I love, and Brad Wright, thankfully, was a big part of my favorite show ever made, and that I still watch. There's Stargate SG-1. I've just finished watching Atlantis. I've watched both of those this year. I'm going to watch SGU next, and then Travelers is also on my list. And then I watch Firefly maybe twice a year, and those are basically the shows I watch over and over, to the point where I can virtually go for word, which is just sad. But it's just
sad. It's not sad. It's very cool.
It's glorious. But I mean, yeah, your words are literally ingrained in my brain. Which is, but when I started this channel 2 years ago, though, I was doing it for fun, and now I'm sat on a panel with Dial the Gate and GateWorld and just talking to Brad, and it's just, I don't get it. Oh,
Matt, how about you? How did you get involved with Sidetrack?
So I joined 18 months ago, which Jay reminded me of today, which I didn't think it was that long, but it was. Initially, just because I noticed he had no sort of community. So I just reached out to him, was like, you don't have a Discord server, you don't have this and that. Do you want me to set it up for you? And he was like, yeah, I don't know how to do that.
I don't know how computers work.
So I came on as the technical support, started making a few videos. I go on the lives every single week. For me, it's all about the community. So being here with all of you is fantastic, and seeing all these comments in the sidebar is really good, really nice. But yeah, just talking about Stargate in general is my favorite thing to do. People who know me at work get annoyed that I talk about Stargate as much as I do. With my family, I talk about it constantly, but they're not laughing now.
No,
they're not laughing.
All right, and we're gonna move on to my gals, but let's start with Rebecca. She, her day job is a producer at The Companion, but not tonight, because I think she's a secret spy and co-host of the brilliant Three Fry Short podcast. And so I see just Three Fry Short, I think in general, as this part of this newer generation of Stargate fandom content creator. I don't mean because your podcast is newer, but really I feel like you're leading the charge, I guess, in this kind of Stargate TikTok, kind of community. lots of followers. And if you aren't on TikTok, or you need to find a friendly place, a Stargate friendly place, Athena, Tano, and Rebecca, those are the people that you should find leading that charge. And so, Rebecca, how has your journey been over the last 3 years on that?
A really interesting question. I've answered it a lot. I'll try to answer it really concisely since I have answered it so many times. But let's see. I got COVID and I decided to do a rewatch of Stargate SG-1 in December of 2020. And while I was sick, sitting on the couch, I was looking at TikTok and I was like, I wonder if Stargate stuff is on TikTok. And sure enough, it was. And that led me to Christina and to Sarah, who are we call each other co-fries at 3 Fries Short.
That's good.
And that led us to connecting with the companion. We were able to record a video for you, Brad and Rick, for the celebration, a year ago, a little more than a year ago.
Yeah.
And not long after that, and I think you even said to Lawrence, hire them. And he did. So I get to work at the companion now. It's opened so many opportunities for us, even on the podcast. And it's been wonderful just to see that whole progression. And I think Christina and I would both say that we have done things now in our 2.5 years of our podcast that we never would have imagined. We've interviewed people we never could have imagined. So it's been a crazy 2.5, 3-year ride for us, I would say.
Cool.
Well, Brad, I'm not sure if you're familiar with TikTok. I know you do those dances sometimes off camera.
I'm all over TikTok. It's just not my face. It's
it's the moves.
Yeah, it's just the moves.
And I thought, obviously, Christina, you can talk about anything you'd like to introduce yourself, but if you can also describe to Brad what Stargate TikTok as an experience is like, I'm sure we'd all love to know.
Oh gosh. Okay. Let me think about this. So Stargate TikTok is this carved out space where I think a bunch of quiet nerds showed up, dipped their toe in, and we're just experiencing the app because we're trying to figure out what it was. And I feel like everyone's kind of stumbled onto each other, kind of like when you show up to a high school dance and everyone's in the middle, and then quietly the antisocial people go off to the wall and they're just watching, and then everyone just huddles up and makes friends against the wall. I feel like that's how I found the community. It's just kind of, I didn't know why I was on there, but I was just kind of going along for the ride. And then I made a couple posts just trying to be on trend. But then TikTok said, oh, you love Stargate? Here's all your other Stargate people, and started sending them to me. And that's what it feels like. It feels like everyone who's there to have a good time, who wants to be engaged, who's appreciative of community. But we have our thing, and we have our own little niche way of doing it. And so whether you're a cosplayer or you're a commentary, or whether you're someone who just wants to watch and make friends, it's all welcome, and there's no expectations. And I think that's really cool. And that's what that community is on TikTok. So we don't really we don't do a ton of the dances. You don't have to do the dances to be a part of it. But that's where we grew from. So myself and Sarah, who can't be here, are predominantly commentators and give a lot of rewatch critique. And then from that community was the ask, you guys should do a podcast. And then that's when Rebecca came on and said, hey, I can help produce. And we had already had commentary. So it is a community asked podcast that we really just stumbled out and said, sure, we'll do it. And through authenticity and this fandom have become where we are now. And we're just along for the ride and enjoying every bit of it. So that's great. Best way to put it.
All right. So I'm glad, Brad, now you got to know everyone a little bit. I mean, you've known some of us for many years, like Darren and David, decades. So we're going to all kind of go backstage now. And the first kind of interview segment now will be with Jay and Matt at Sidetrack. And then hopefully I'll see you in 15 or so minutes. All right.
Oh, that was good. That's better than ours.
I like that.
Was pretty good. They know their stuff.
That was really good.
Their stuff.
That's dope. We'll just get stuck straight into it if you can, because we've got 15 minutes and I feel this is going to go quite quickly. So can I throw in the first question?
Jump in, man.
Cool. Right. So it's me first. Shut up, So Star Trek has shown us that keeping canon straight is actually quite hard, apparently, and Star Wars at times. Stargate was always really good at it, though, and we always talk about how keeping the canon was always really good in Stargate. There's not many times I think he made mistakes. How did you keep it all straight? You know, setting all these rules up and things. And were there any times that you can think of that it nearly went horribly wrong? Or
actually, the first time it went horribly wrong was in the opening scene of the pilot. But I've told that story. The pilot stepped through and then stepped back, and we went, "You can't do that." And so that, you know, we fixed it, sort of, not really. The reason we were pretty good at continuity is because we had a team of writers and directors that had so enjoyed working together that we just stayed for the longest time. I mean, I left this. I don't know of many cases, if any, where this has happened before, but I left the show for a bit and came back. Like I came and went, and just because I needed to recharge and spent more than a few days with my family. But I came back and it was, oh, hey, Brad, come back in. And I would always spin stories. And because it was me, Rob, for the, you know, almost the entire show. Rob came on as a story editor early on. I think we were shooting the pilot. So he, from the beginning. And so there's that continuity. And then Paul and Joe came on in season 4. And so somebody basically would just raise their hand whenever there was an issue, whenever there was like, oh, wait a minute, no, can't do that, you know. And sometimes we would go, have we broken that? Is that a rule? Can we do that? And then we'd say, sure. And so that's when you create new canon because you're not contradicting anything. But I think it was just the continuity of writers and directors, because on set, occasionally a director would say, oh, well, let's try this. And, you know, somebody would say, no, you can't do that with a staff weapon. You know, it doesn't work that way. It just does this. And so that was very helpful. Just the rules of going back and forth through a Stargate it's really handy when everybody knows what those rules are and you don't have to explain it to a new director because time is money in that situation.
Yeah. I mean, even when you went over to SG Atlantis and then SGU, it was sort of an extension of that team. It always felt
yeah.
And you knew it was, you know, you watch the crew and it was like, oh, I know him from there. And
Rob and I both stepped back in the last 2 years of Atlantis a little bit. I mean, I kept coming in and helped break stories, and I wrote a couple. I think the Shrine happened in a year that I wasn't on fully, but that was also to help free some time to develop and come up with something new, because MGM was saying we're going to need what the next thing is, and for whatever reason, Atlantis had a hard time in terms of the business model going beyond season 5. That was that was a business model issue more than anything else.
MGM was imploding at the time. There's always, I mean,
they were. I know that it was scary. It was scary, and when they did implode, it was kind of heartbreaking, because people I knew, people I had talked to for years, and I would phone, and it would be, so and so no longer works at MGM, and you'd go, oh, do you have a number? So and so no longer works at MGM. That's all they would say. So yeah, it was kind of sad, and of course, we saw it coming in the last season of the universe, and it was like the Titanic heading toward the iceberg. He was like, oh shit, we're going to hit that iceberg. There's just no way around it. It was a slow motion, perfect storm.
Well, it was heartbreaking for fans when it happened. It was and now MGM basically doesn't exist.
Well, I mean, they certainly do exist as a brand and as a library. And there are people who work at MGM now. Some of even the new people who I met when they asked me to write a pilot have moved on. So, but MGM is one of the most recognizable brands in the world to this day. So that's, when Amazon buys something, it's more than just a library. It's that line.
Yeah. I saw my first movie last night that was MGM. It's called Killing something. It's quite good actually, but it was Amazon MGM Studios.
Oh,
That's my
really?
first one I've seen. Yeah.
Interesting.
Mm.
Interesting.
It was a moment I had to pause it. Like, that's a moment. Need to remember that. But anyway, Matt, do you want to jump in?
I do. You
Oh, I'm sorry, we're out
mentioned
of time. No, I'm kidding.
Couldn't stop him. Oh, you wouldn't stop him. He'd reach through the screen and grab you if you tried.
You mentioned Stargate Universe there, which is probably my favorite of the three.
Thank you.
How much of a plan was there for Stargate Universe? How much can you tell us about where they would have gone had you have got
Well,
the third season?
it all had to do ultimately with the mystery and the Destiny's original mission, and Rush and Twin Destinies in the second. I mean, that was intended to launch a whole new arc, because at the end of Twin Destinies, the crew basically gets sent to another timeline, and we're going to create, as we see in epilogue and beyond, a whole bunch of humans that we could run into, who would join in our quest, and help, keep the Destiny afloat and alive and going. And the transition was always supposed to be, and I think one of the problems with the show is we took too long to do this. It was supposed to be the wrong people on the ship, like totally. These people are not supposed to be here, and then gelling over the course of a period of time to become exactly the right people to do the mission. And that mission ultimately was to find out what the ancients perceived as something, that evidence of an intelligence that existed before the Big Bang, which had some spiritual impact on some people, but also a science point of view. And then, of course, the other fun thing about that is the ancients clearly figured that out, or they would have gone to Destiny. They launched the ship hoping to do this, and then went, "Oh, we got it," probably because they ascended.
I always imagined it was because they ascended. Yeah.
Yeah.
Looked, didn't they? Oh, there it is.
But we haven't ascended, and so the idea of the humankind taking over that mantle for our own purposes, I thought was always really interesting.
Would you have had? So you mentioned the descendants of the original crew that went back in time. Would you have had those join Destiny at some point?
Well, we certainly already encountered them, and because they moved on from that planet, I had hoped that we would see seeds of them elsewhere in the next galaxy. When we arrived there, Eli was going to fix the ship, and we were going to emerge into a galaxy where there were also humans, and they were our own descendants, which is kind of cool. I just thought that was really cool.
Nice, yeah.
I remember the moment when I pitched that idea on the phone. I was in Arizona for some reason. I was on the phone with Robert and Paul and Joe, and they went, "Cool, we can shoot humans." Because I was always objecting to the fact that if we're a million galaxies away, why would we run into humanoids? That's why everybody was so alien when we met them.
The main question we got when we asked this out to fans was, will we get a conclusion to SGU? Will we get? And it's the question. I know you obviously we've no way of knowing, but it is probably the most thing we're asked.
I get asked a lot too, and whoever takes over the show may not even want to, continue in canon. But if they do, I'm pretty sure they have to answer that question. What happened?
Yeah.
I have come up with lots of ways, and in my pilot script, address the issue.
That's a good way of putting it. You address the issue. That's going to get people asking questions.
Well, I don't want to say what I did, because whoever does it might want to do something like that, and I don't want to put it out there. I mean, in some ways, it's kind of an obvious solution.
Put it in your memoir. Tell us in your memoir, maybe.
Yeah, I'll put it in my memoir, Jay.
Okay, thank you. As long as you get it out at some point.
I can't write a memoir because I don't remember enough. It would be.
Well,
I don't know. I was working. I can tell you about what happened at my kid's birthday party that year, but I can't. The show is a blur.
Doing 22 or episodes, that must have just been. I mean, I hear stories about writing, literally writing and then filming next day and things like this, and just that it was just.
We were actually pretty good at staying ahead. I was a big believer of giving the crew, and still am a big believer in giving the crew time to prep a script, because you can't build the sets we were building with a script that you get it during prep. I was developing story ideas with the art department. A writer would say, "What if we do this, this, and this?" And I would go down to the art department, or for that matter, go down to the visual effects department and say, "Can we do this? If we do this, let's consider doing this." And then that would be too expensive. And so we would say, "Okay, well, let's build this for this show, but be able to repurpose the structure for this show." And you probably, for the most part, didn't even know what we had done that. But preparation in producing as a writer producer puts money on the screen and keeps your crew alive. Having said that, your lead way goes away, right? You start with 10 scripts or however many scripts, and you think they're in great shape, but then when you read them, okay, time to do a pass on this script, you go, "Oh shit, I have to rewrite this thing completely." And it has generally less to do with the mechanism of the show, the mechanics of the show, than it does just the characters and the dialogue. There's a ton of Stargates where I remember writing scenes, and I'll see it and I go, "I remember writing that scene," and then the episode the credit will happen, or I'll go back and see what the credit was. Like, "Oh, I guess I didn't write that one," or "I did, but my name isn't on it."
No, because you're in the room.
A showrunner's job is to rewrite and make sure that the characters all have the same voices, and for production. And something you think will be a great script at the beginning of prep isn't necessarily going to work by the time you're in August and you don't have the money you thought you would.
I think it was actually Star Trek I was thinking about, that I heard stories about them literally writing scripts the day before and then sending them off. I remember watching Brent Spiner saying, "I got a script one night and you were filming the next day." And he was like, "I'm supposed to learn 30 pages?" And that's mad.
No, shit happens. And I've been in the situation where I've had to write for the next day. I mean, an actor gets appendicitis or something. You have to make changes. You have to make changes on the fly.
Or one of your actors fall over and hurts his ankle or something.
Yeah, who knows? Yeah, so shit happens.
These things happen. We wanted to ask a question that sort of get a feeling of a bit more about you and what sort of thing you still watch now. So if you got the chance to write an episode for something that was on TV now, or sci-fi or anything really, what sort of show do you think? What would you love to like? Oh, I'd love to write an episode for that.
Well, that's not really a fair question, because I think the answer is Star Trek. I got into this business. I got into this business in part so I could write for Next Generation, and I really wanted to write for that show. I thought it was the best show on TV, and so when Terry Matalas did season 3 of Picard, I was so jealous because I thought that ship had sailed. And then I told him so. I sent him a message and said, "Man, you just did my dream, and you did it really great. You did it better than I would have. So, congratulations." But yeah, if anybody asked me to write and I don't care which Star Trek, I like them all. I would do that in a heartbeat. It's not going to happen, but I would do it. Okay? It's not going to happen because you don't bring in somebody from the outside as a freelancer anymore. That just doesn't happen anymore. It used to, but it doesn't anymore.
2 minutes, Matt. So go on. You got on there. We've got 2 quick ones at the end.
So I've got the question. Other than Zat Nicotel with the 3-shot rule, is there any other part of Stargate lore that you would have retconned in hindsight?
Probably. Honestly, there's a bunch of stuff that just, we ran through a lot of trees. Because you think you write exterior, and you have to. You can't shoot everything in the studio, but it's just at the end of the day. I mean, and I wish I could remove a couple of episodes just from the show. Like Emancipation is terrible.
We don't want to.
It's terrible. I know it is. I'm not dumb. I knew then. I was like, "Oh, this is going to kill us," but. It's you can't rewrite history. I've done a series about that too, by the way. But you can't do it in real
I
life.
love
so-
Travelers. Travelers is one of my
Thank you.
favorite shows. So.
I'm very proud of it. It's a good show.
I love that nobody noticed that the Zat looks like a penis. That you just didn't realize that.
Yeah, nobody noticed.
No, it never occurred to me until Michael Shanks told us anything. We got
Sound
two quick
effects
fire
help.
questions. No, we got two really quick fire questions from fans. So one,
Okay.
TK Bat asked us, "How's your handicap these days?"
It's down to a 13 index.
That's not bad. That's pretty good.
That's pretty good. I shot 82 yesterday.
Oh, that's very good.
That's pretty good.
Mine's rubbish. I've got like 3 or something.
It's a hard game, man. It's a hard game.
It really irritates me. I hit the ball and it goes to 2 o'clock. So I think I'll aim over at 10 o'clock. Then it still goes to 2 o'clock.
No, you just need to adjust your grip, Jay. We'll talk about that another time.
Yeah. Anyway, last one.
Last one. This is from
Question.
Grey Hammer. I think I've said that right. What do the furlings actually look like? Because we all have the image in our head of evil Ewok, little Ewoks, but they're not.
Okay, sure, that's what it is. Here's how Robert was writing an episode called The Fifth Race, and he wanted it to be the fifth race because it sounded cooler than the fourth race. So as he was listing the things, we the Nox, he needed another name, and he came up with the Furlings. And I remember reading the script, and I went, "Furlings? Who the hell are the Furlings?" And he went, "I need another name." That is the extent of their creation. True story. Which is why we mocked it so much in the 200th episode, or the 100th, whichever it was.
So the furlings are basically whatever we think they look like.
Sure.
Yeah.
And if you think that we sat around going, I think the Furlings are this or that, no. It was Rob needed another name, and that's what it was.
We've said that
coming up with alien names is not always easy, and I think
We've
he
said we
probably
think-
regretted that one.
We've said the Furlings should be the villains in the new show when it ever comes out. So we joke about the evil Ewoks quite a lot.
Sure. Okay. It's probably not a very good idea, but to make everybody furry in a television show, but
Those poor actors. Oh dear.
yes, exactly.
Brad, thank you so much for that. That is astonishing. 15 minutes is not long enough, Lawrence. I hate you right now.
Well, I mean,
Thank you for your time,
I will
Brad.
lose
That
my
was
voice by
really
the
good.
end of this. So you got first at least. So
Yeah.
it's great to meet you
Definitely
guys
got
in
first.
person. I watch your stuff. You know more about what's going on at MGM than I do, and I appreciate the insight. So thank you.
No, thank you. That's amazing for you to say. Yeah, we've been very, very lucky. Just stupidly lucky. But
Good.
thank you so much.
All right. Thanks,
Thank you, guys.
See you then.
All right. And so next up, we've got 3 Fries Short.
Hello, Brad.
Hi, that is a really cool logo, by the way.
I love it. I think it's
so
adorable.
good.
We quite like our theme song as well. So we are 3 fries short, and you may have noticed there are only 2 of us here right now. So
You're one price short.
We're one
Yeah.
fry short, yes. So we wanted to play a video from Sarah. She has a question for you. So we'll
Okay.
just kick it off with that first, if Tommy can do that for us.
Hello, and welcome to this segment of 3 Fries Short, Unearthing the Stargate. I'm your co-fries, Sarah, who could not be there today. So 3 Fries Short will actually be 1 fry short of being 3 fries short, I guess? Or something like that. Something we've discussed on our podcast is how Stargate came around at a very particular time when meta arcs were becoming the norm with TV, how everything was tied together as one big plot line for a season. So with SG-1, we got a really good mix of story of the week episodes, but then episodes that were also tied into bigger plot lines. We went to a lot of worlds and met a lot of characters that were just a one-time thing and we never saw them again, like What Fate Amaroka Man and Ergo. And it was really a pleasant surprise when a world or characters would return kind of out of the blue, like the Tolan. It was super surprised when they came back. Or the robots from Tin Man. I truly never thought we would ever see them again, and when they had their follow-up episode, my mind was blown. So my question for you, Brad, is, are there any plot lines or characters that you wish you could have revisited or developed more that you just couldn't get to?
I guess we always created characters or a character with the intention of adding to the mythology.
Mm-hmm.
The What Fate Omoroka guy, Nem, I think his character name was. I cannot believe I remember that.
I'm impressed.
If that is, maybe I didn't remember.
I don't know either. So,
I mean, his story was so personal and small. It was, he wanted to know, his basically what happened to his mate with the other person in his life. So that story felt complete. Whenever a story feels complete, it's over, right? So, and that's cool. But I mean, I wanted to do another, you know what, I didn't even want to say specifically, because there was a lot that we planned or could have going forward. The nature of the structure of how we did Stargate is how I like to do TV, which is, I call it's like a hybrid. Yes, modern storytelling is one big story. But even the best versions of that, like The Last of Us, do spectacular one-off episodes that are a window into the larger picture. This is this story, this personal and intimate story that expands on a character, builds the world from a character perspective. And so those are important to me. And the fact that we managed to continually remind ourselves of a thread that we needed to pick up on, that we had left at the end of a previous season. It would be what we would do at the end of each season. We would say, okay, we have to revisit this, and this. I think we're good about this. I think that story feels over, doesn't it? And that's basically how it happened. I can't think of another specific one that I would love to. Dom DeLuise was just fun. I said we did the Ergo character. I think Tor Valenza pitched the story for Ergo, and I said we would need and Peter was a consultant writer and director at the time, and he said, like my dad, and I went, yeah, would he do it? He said, yeah, I'll ask him, and that was that. So I don't know if, he expended so much energy in that performance. I don't know that he would have come back anyway, but that story was told. You know what I mean? The story was told.
Sure, absolutely.
Yeah. So kind of a follow-up to that is, and you mentioned this a little bit just earlier with Sidetrack, is there's some episodes that you're like, I wish I could just get away with. I think we all agree about emancipation. But on that note, what are some storylines that maybe went past their expiration date in your mind and you would have liked to have wrapped them up sooner? And then what's your process when you're like, I need to be done with this, I want to be done with this, but you have to wind it down? Is there a storyline within Stargate that you would have wrapped sooner?
By the end of season 7, we thought we were ending the show every season. We thought this would be the last season. And so we found ourselves wrapping up storylines and, defeating the Gould. I mean, they're kind of defeated. People talk about the new show and who will be the Gould. Well, we kind of defeated the Gould. So I was kind of happy to move beyond that villain, the villain that we didn't really create. We borrowed from the feature. We just said that Ra was a Gould. And it's fun creating new villains. So Rob came up with the Ori entirely on his own as a new villain for season 8 and 9, or 9 and 10 of SG1, because he felt we needed a new one. And I think whatever the new Amazon series or movie is, I think it will need a new one. I think a new villain is necessary unless they do a reboot.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Did I answer that question?
I think so. I think because what I get from that is you would have liked to wrap the Gould up much sooner and try to keep killing them off. Because to your point, I think the Ori were a great villain and they only had a short window of time. And so we got their continuation through the movies that came. But it's interesting to hear that, because now that I think of it in that perspective, the Gould they keep dying and coming back. And it is yeah, it does get a little rinsed out.
Well, Teal'c was one of our main characters, and he was, excuse me, he was tied in. I mean, he was the first prime. He was tied into that world. So for his sake alone, it was important that they be around for a long time. And they were so dominant in our galaxy for the longest time. But, you know, by the time we were moving on to other galaxies, and I remember even objecting to that, going, we can't just go to another galaxy. The galaxy's enormous. You can't just leap around galaxies, and then we ended up doing it. But I thought a new enemy, maybe I'm telling you a little bit about my pilot, should come from another galaxy. And if they have access to this one, maybe there's a whole new story that could happen there. Yes, I'm telling you about the pilot I wrote that I'll never see light of day, probably.
Telling what?
Say more? No.
Say more. It's just us here. Nobody's listening.
No, yeah.
No, there's nobody out there.
Yeah. Kind of feels that way, doesn't it?
I know. I love this though. That's really exciting. I won't push that question because I know that we won't go that far.
Sure.
I'd love to hear about it, but be super mindful of it. But yeah, Rebecca.
So you kind of answered one of my questions about the pros and cons to those plot structures, the kind of story of the week versus the meta plot, because there seems to be a lot of backlash, especially in Star Trek with the new Trek versus everybody's like Strange New Worlds is great because it's story of the week versus Discovery or Picard or something that has that overarching arch. So I think you kind of touched on that hybrid thing.
Let me add to that, because the rationale for it is I believe that that the person who just checks in for one episode deserves a story. They don't deserve a chapter in a book. They deserve a story. Like if you miss an episode of whatever, you deserve to sit down and have something that has a beginning, a middle, and an end. And this is the story. Does it tie into the larger arc? Hopefully, maybe absolutely. But I think it's important. I think it's very important that the constant viewer get rewarded with a large arc, and the frequent, if not slightly infrequent viewer gets a story when they tune in. I think that's only fair.
It's kind of like trying to jump into a comic book character or something. You have no idea where to go. Yeah.
Also, I've watched shows that I have enjoyed and liked and missed an episode or two and gone, what the hell is going on? What did I miss? I missed one episode. How the hell is this happening? And I don't think that's cool. I think, well, it is cool when you're binging it and you watch everything, but I just think maybe it's the way my brain is wired. I think in terms of stories. So when I come up with an episode, it has a story. Yes, it ties into the larger arc, but it also has a story.
Sure. I love that. I'm going to move right into this next question here, which is we did a whole episode on tropes in Stargate.
Tropes?
Tropes. Yeah. So the question is, do you have a favorite trope and or a least favorite trope? And have you ever upended a trope to like taken it and just completely flipped it upside down?
I can't think of a specific example, but I think that was what we were trying to do a lot. I mean, the truth is, in science fiction, somebody pitches an idea and you go, yeah, but that was this, or Star Trek did this. And because I'm such a huge sci-fi nerd, I would also go to books and say, yeah, Asimov did that, or whatever. So if you're going to do it, using window of opportunity as an example, if you're going to do Groundhog Day, you embrace it. You say, okay, we're doing Groundhog Day, but we're going to turn it on. We're just going to make it the Stargate version, and we're going to have it have meaning for, by the end. It's not just, we've lived the same day over and over and over again. That last scene, those last scenes with Malachi, I can't believe I remember that character's name either. And Jack, about letting go, they resonate in Jack's own life.
Yeah.
It's funny and it's great, but it's a trope that we put our own spin to. We made it the Stargate version of that trope.
I think we generally, we come to the consensus that Stargate does that the best because of that. So
Well, I think selfishly, we love that episode because that's where we named ourselves from. Is our 3 fries short of a happy
Three fries
meal.
short of a Happy Meal. I figured that out.
So we're very appreciative of this episode.
Christina, do you have another question?
You know, well, someone already asked about the furlings in this space, and so I'm going to be sensitive to that because that was such a great answer to it. Let me, in my mind, put this the right way or ask this the right way. Because I've heard you talk a lot about this community and like feeling this attachment with like Lawrence and the companion. And I don't think, just taking a peel back from like the Stargate space of it, I would just love to hear like, what does the community mean to you? Because like we're having this chance with like everyone coming together from decades old to newer, and just, I don't think maybe there's an awareness of how much we all love and adore like what you've done for this community and who you are in this community for us. And I'd love to hear from you what this community has done for you.
I'm always surprised. I'm always blown away when people express how much the show means to them personally, and how much they give me credit for that. And I always go, you're giving me too much credit. I was at the chair at the end of the table, but the table was full of people, really smart, creative people who deserve props for everything that they did on the show. And here's a little metaphor for you. I also want to move on myself, right? I also consider myself an artist who wants to come up with a new show and does a new show, and I'm pitching new stuff all the time. So Travelers was to me a completely different departure. But when the Stargate fandom embraced it, that was lovely for me. That was like I was like, oh, I get a sense of Stargate in Travelers, and that's because I suppose my writing has a style, and Travelers was in that style. So that was lovely. That was lovely. The only other metaphor I want to give you, I went and saw Peter Gabriel in concert, and the audience loved him. It was like a whole arena full of people who adore Peter Gabriel, and I was one of them. And everybody was listening to his new album and going, "This is good. Yeah, this is really good. This is terrific. This is terrific." And then when one of his old hits came on, everybody went nuts. And he recognized, yeah, I know, this is the reason you love me. And that's, as an analogy, I know whatever I do now, I'm trying to continue to be an artist, and I hope it's really, really good. But I know that fandom and the community are going to, I'm the Stargate guy. So thank you for that. It's a badge I will wear with honor.
Well, thank you so much, Brad, for talking to us. It's been a wonderful opportunity. And thank you for being here for everybody today. It's such an exciting event.
It's a great idea. Well, it's a good idea.
Yes.
You had.
Me?
Thank you.
Thanks you. Thank you, Christina and Rebecca. Amazing.
Thank you.
I'm actually sweating backstage. I'm like typing to everyone, oh man, they're asking so good questions. I have to like reformat everything now. So speaking of good questions, it's now David and the Dial the Gate segment.
David's going to stump me. I know it.
God, I love these logos. They've just done such a great job.
Yeah, they're good.
I need to reach out to whoever this is and say, hi, I need some help over here. How are you?
I'm very well, thanks. You, David? How are you?
I'm good. I went to John Williams live at the Hollywood Bowl like 5-6 years ago. Yeah, it was just one of those bucket list items, and the whole night was euphoric. And he finished with the Imperial March, and the whole place, the entire night was just insane. But when that played, it was like the whole place turned upside down. And I'm so glad to hear that you also recognize it's the reason why you're here, that what Stargate means to us is also what it means to you. You know, it's you can still come up with new great shows like Travelers and new ideas, but at the same time, you know, we can still go back and love this thing that you created with all these amazing people for 17 seasons. So
yeah, it's 17 seasons is a giant chunk of my life. So I can't, you know, and I would never turn my back on it. You know, the desire to create different kinds of art, you know, new shows is just because my brain I just keep coming up with stuff, and whether or not I may be retired, you never know, but hopefully I'm not. And I get another chance. I thought that was going to be Stargate for a little while. And I went, do I really want to do this? Sure, you can do this. I'm realizing that I was going to not please everybody, and there was still going to be people. This is the Stargate we want, and so but I still accepted the challenge, if you will, and because they called me, and then to not be doing it, I'm also okay with that. I'm completely sanguine about it because you know somebody had to take over eventually anyway.
have you seen the Orville?
The show? Yeah, of course.
Yeah, and we're hoping to see season 4, but it was finished in such a way in season 3 that I, as a huge fan of it, was even like, if this is it, that's okay. And I've always felt that way about, you know, SG1, but not for Atlantis and Universe, because they were ripped from us in terms of fandom. And I will repeat that SGU, as one of the earlier folks said, is my favorite show. So
thank you.
That was really hard.
That was a tough one. It was a tough one. I mean, and I dug in my heels when they suggested that we end it. And I ultimately, I'm probably one of the few. I love the ending of that season 2. I just love the music cue that Joel did. Speaking of John Williams.
Will you tell me about that call with Joel?
No.
And him playing over the
piano. It was
piano.
too hard. Yeah. He played it for me on piano live, and
I miss him. I miss him a lot. I met him twice, and the first time he met me, he said, "Give me a hug."
It was one of the last times I spoke to him. That's why it's so sad. And it was such a good cue, and to this day, it haunts me. But as an episode, as an ending of an episode, it's beautiful. I mean, it was a beautiful season finale, and because it ended up being a series finale, I still think it's beautiful. Do I wish we had an opportunity to continue? Absolutely. In fact, I started writing a movie that a sort of a rescue mission movie where you know, characters from Atlantis and SG1 went to save the Destiny, and I thought, well, let's wrap it up at least in that way. And then when I realized, or when I found out that MGM really had no interest in doing that, it was a bit heartbreaking. But we kept the setup, right? We kept the setup for the longest time, and then it was, okay, we can't afford to keep the lights. Okay, let's take down the lights. And then it was like, so, and when I walked into that empty stage, I couldn't watch them take the set down. So I walked into the empty stage. It's really sad too.
Yeah, no, I'm thankful that you guys pulled pieces from that for Travelers, because it's pieces of Destiny were in, you know, that show. That was a big deal. Brad, what can we do to get Joel's music out to people? I have been beating the drum at it. When I was there as a freelancer for MGM, I was like, what can we do to get this music out? Who has it? His widow? I mean,
possibly, but I mean, I when the Continuum score, I can't even remember what it was. I think it was the Continuum score when it was released. I talked to the music guy and I said it should all be released. It's MGM Music, so it'll end up being Amazon Music department, and it just needs to be them. the truth is his music is so great. It elevated the show.
Yep.
Beyond the show. It's I don't mean to belittle the show, but without his expertise, he made the show better than it was, just because his music was so amazing. Yeah. And I can hear cues in my head, like I can play the Window of Opportunity, da da da, da da da. Dun, 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 dun. And I remember the first time I heard that, I went, "Oh God, that's perfect."
He's got
we
it.
would listen to a day one mix, and Joel would send me individual cues, and I would just listen to the music, independent of a picture. And because our interaction was pretty constant, and but I didn't spot with him. I didn't say, "Oh, music should go here." I said, "I'm not going to tell you what to do with where the music should go. You're Joel Goldsmith, man." It was great. I miss you too.
Absolutely, and I'm the same about that last piece of music from the show. I think it's the best piece of music that he ever wrote, because it was just, you could feel in his heart that it was the culmination of his love for that franchise. And I have a hard time rewatching that last 15 minutes because someone just take a steak knife to my heart, man, and just cut all the way through, because that's what it feels like. So there are fan versions of that online because they couldn't get it released. Fans have gone and recreated it, and it's just beautiful. He's there. No one will duplicate him. No one.
No.
Stargate ended up including a number of episodes which turned out to be prophetic, especially on like the technological front. Revisions I am constantly referencing right now because we know that it's coming. We know that wireless integration at some point will be a part of our society in the next 100 years. That's it. We're going to be plugged in. And Neuralink, I think, is the birth pangs of that. Are there any stories which you felt turned out to hit closer to home than you expected?
That's interesting that you should say that, because my producing partner, Carrie Mudd, we did Travelers together. She kept saying, she asked me the same question, and then the same thing happened in Travelers. We did an episode that, speaking of prophetic, that everybody thought, "Oh my God, they predicted COVID," and well, it was just a pandemic episode, and then a pandemic happened. But there are lots of little things in Universe. I was worried about the batteries, and I said, well, why don't we just create this thing? We'll call it a charging plate, and you put your flashlight on it, and then the batteries work again. We wrote that scene into the thing, and now I put my phone down on a. No, we did not invent that. It was just simply an easy way of getting around the fact that we were out of batteries, and it made sense. Clearly, there were engineers working on that technology before, but it is kind of cool.
Absolutely, it is.
Yeah.
Were there any others that stand out?
In Travelers, I mean, in Travelers, yes, but in SG1, I mean, we're going way back. A lot of the technology that we came up with was naturally going to happen,
Mm-hmm. Urias Tosh wanted to know, why did you do Sokar so dirty? Apophis totally stole his arc. And I think this goes back to a larger question of what audiences expect of the villains in terms of lead up, because it was certainly a shock to me when I was watching, okay, Amun just took him out. So that's probably over. Was that, and I spoke with Jonathan a little bit about this, was it specifically to Sokar, and in like a larger conversation of villains in general, was it an expectation like, okay, we're done with this guy, let's throw the audience a curveball and nuke him and return to Apophis, which was not necessarily expected? Certainly Darren didn't expect it. He created GateWorld because of it. I'm sure he'll talk about that.
Well, I honestly don't remember the rationale in the moment. But we would sometimes, it might have even just been practical. but I also like Apophis was our ongoing guy, so it was kind of cool to bring him back too. What did Jonathan say? I don't remember.
He was very much like, the character has fulfilled his purpose. We're moving on. That was
okay.
The
That probably was probably it. Yeah.
Yeah, because you
going
could have
back
gone
a
on with
ways.
him for a couple more years. So,
Yeah. Well,
absolutely.
I mean, there were so many ancient gods that the Goa'uld were adopting. We could jump. I mean, we could just have new ones. So,
if I may insert really quickly here, one of the promises of the original or the what's posited in early on in season 1 is that the Goa'ulds either were here on Earth or they took on the personas of our gods. And which do you think it was in the final analysis?
I think that they came and took transplanted humans to their own worlds and adopted
from
their gods.
Okay.
And maybe it went both ways to a certain extent.
Okay.
I mean, the pyramid, if it was we didn't invent that concept. I mean, that was, we borrowed that from the movie and then expanded upon it. That's all.
Okay.
But that's to me what it was. And they were like, hey, if you think about it, it's a pretty powerful way to take over a culture, to say, yeah, I am that guy, really, I can fly and I have a spaceship. Okay, well, you're a god then. You are that god. Makes sense.
Wormhole Extremists, we just rewatched the episode where, and I'm 40 now and these names are going away, but the episode where they go through the Stargate and they find a religious society who, they're uncovering the gate and it's going against their religion. And we had the conversation in the episode, what if Christ came back, and said that he was who he said he was? What percentage of the population would just be like, no, I don't believe it. This is not real. How far are you willing to go, to prove something wrong that this can't be real. Someone's got to be faking this with our news and everything else now. So,
well, what is the there's two things that come to mind. One is the Arthur C. Clarke quote: "Any sufficiently advanced technology is indistinguishable from magic or supernatural, by extension." And the other one is I can't remember what season it was of the original TNG series, where a woman, an alien, posed as the god of a culture, and
Devil's Due, Audra.
There you go. See,
yeah.
You knew it, but I remember the episode, and that is that structure. I mean, there it is right in one episode.
Harvey and Todd the Wraith, if you go back and change it, would you have added a full opening to SGU? Opening credits.
Oh, I thought you were talking about the Wraith person. That's the person's name. Got it.
Yeah.
What? Harvey? There was a Harvey? No, I loved it. Here's the funny thing. This is a true story. Sci-Fi wanted us to shorten the credit sequence for Atlantis. You probably know this story.
Yep.
But Joel had written this gorgeous, beautiful piece, and the one thing that allowed me to win the argument, basically as we were still in the midst of arguing about whether or not it should be a short thing or a long thing, was Joel got nominated for an Emmy. And I thought, okay, well, do you want to cut the Emmy-nominated music down to nothing? Okay, I guess we could do that. So that worked very well in my. It's television changes and it evolves, and even in Travelers, I remember Carrie and I going over about how long the opening sequence should be, and Netflix said, any opportunity you get, you create for somebody to turn it off or fast forward or just switch channels. That's what short titles help you with. So we made it 18 seconds.
Sure. I have one question for you remaining. It's kind of like a yes or no. If you want to expound on it, it's up to you. But throughout the run of Universe, there appeared to be omniscient aliens interfering with Destiny's path, such as when they created a solar system where some of the Destinies settled and were later miraculously returned to the ship to end their lives again with their colleagues. Did this race have anything to do with Destiny's ultimate mission?
Well, it could have. It certainly could have. I mean, we wanted there to be a race of beings that at least rivaled the ancients, but not necessarily the ancients. In fact, not the ancients. They were pretty powerful, and they were clearly trying to understand us and try to do things for us. But for me, we wanted them to be as powerful, as more advanced than we are, as we are to ants. So yeah, we wanted, and they didn't have to be omniscient, and they didn't have to tie into the last, to the arc of the show as we saw it, but they certainly could have.
Okay. Brad, thank you for doing this, and it means so much that all of us can get to here to sit down with you together, and I'd love to get you on Dial the Gate next year. Well,
I'm glad we had this, and I knew you were going to ask a question that made me choke up or something. You're the Barbara Walters of interviewers, David.
Barbara Wawa.
There you go.
Thank you, Brad.
Thank you.
Thanks, David. I am frantically now crossing off my questions. Another great interview. Oh, man. Wonder if there's any material left. But, next up is Darren with GateWorld.
Hey, Darren.
Hello. I have the same experience, but kind of being towards the end of the queue, listening to all these great interview questions and just enjoying everything as it goes. And my
Just
question
wind
is
me up. I can talk for 15 minutes. You don't have to worry about it.
folks might know if they've been around for a while. The GateWorld used to visit the set annually when you guys were in production, and I was a kid. I was really nervous walking around, talking with Joe Flanagan and Tori Higginson and Amanda Tapping, and then we'd go upstairs to the writers' room, and you were the easiest interview because I could just walk into your office, plop down on the couch, and say, "Brad, what's going on?" And you would talk for 20 minutes.
Yeah, I'm like a wind-up toy. I can just pull my string and off I go. Yep.
Well, I want to ask you first about your craft because I've been following your work since The Outer Limits, all the way through years and years of Stargate and through Travelers. As you've moved through your career and had those different experiences, what are the elements that you would say make up a good writer's room? How are the different writers' rooms that you've been a part of, how have they differed from each other?
That's an interesting question. The Outer Limits was it was because we were each writing individual stories. There was never an arc that we had to worry about tying into. So basically, I would go into Jonathan's or Scott's or Manny's office back in season 1 and say, "How about this?" And they would say, "That's cool. Let's pitch that to Trilogy." Trilogy was the studio. No, not the studio. MGM was the studio, but they were the production entity that had sold The Outer Limits to MGM. So then we'd have to pitch that, and it would just be like a document. What about this? And they would just go yes, no, and we would either write an outline and it would get developed further, or I would just write the damn thing and say, "Here, how about this?" And we got so desperate on The Outer Limits because we were a little behind when I started on that show. But John and I were very good at working together and spinning story, Jonathan and I. And we did that on The Outer Limits together. So when we came to Stargate, the writer's room was catch as catch can. It was we were never all together for any length of time, except at the beginning of the season, in a real room, and long enough to even call it a writer's room. It was like, "Hey guys, can we steal an hour?" And we'd all sit and we'd spin the idea or whatever we needed to spin, and that kind of just carried over into the rest of the show, except for the beginning of the season and the end of the season when we actually were able to sit down. We did not have a structured writer's room in the same way that for example, I was able to do on Travelers. With Travelers, and it was a giant. We had 3 or 4 weeks, and then all through prep, it was me and the writers spinning stories, breaking stories on the whiteboard, all of which we did in Stargate, but in a more structured way, in a more all at once way. And part of it was because John and I were also producing The Outer Limits. So we just didn't have the time. We were like grabbing time to put stuff on a whiteboard and break stories. And we got better at it, and we got more. We started devoting more time to it. And I have to say, there is no more fun place than a writer's room when you're on fire. It's just, especially when you have people as funny as Martin Garrow and making you, Paul Mully, just making you cry laughing at anything that we're discussing, and in context or out of context, and that continued into Travelers. It is just so much fun to spin story. It can be frustrating as hell. It can be painful because there's something there, but this thing is in the way or whatever, and you don't have an act 4. It's always act 4, as Joe Monsey would say. But it's so satisfying when you come away and drive home and think and go, yeah, that was good. It was exhausting. It can be really exhausting, but so much fun. And then what I learned, another thing I learned on Travelers was you break a story, and this is what we started doing. We broke the story again. We would wipe it off the board and do it again. Amazingly, when you try to do it a second time, all the glue and spit that was holding together the version 1 reveals itself, and it quite often is different in ways, and it's like the second pass on any draft, but by starting from scratch, it's a proof of concept, a proof that, oh yeah, this is a good story, or this isn't a good story. But there's no more fun place in the world than a bunch of people in a writer's room.
One of the really fun stories that you contributed to the Stargate world was season 4's 2010 and season 5's 2001. We've heard whispers over the years that the Ashen were going to be a trilogy. So I wonder if you could talk us through the genesis of the idea. How did the Ashen come about, and how this idea gets developed in the writer's room? And then why didn't that third one come about? What was in the way that you couldn't overcome?
It could have, and I could have probably come up with another Ashen story because they would have been angry with what we did to them after 2001. After that episode, but I laugh and smile every time you say it, because Rob was not a fan. I mean, he liked the episodes, but he didn't like them as a villain. He didn't like the slow game, the long game that the Ashen played out. Like, they're going to starve us out. And Rob went, oh my God, they're not growing corn. Is not a great. And again, funny writer's room moment, but 2010 is arguably my favorite of my own episodes, mainly because Andy McKee did such a great job directing it, and it was one of his first directing assignments. The last act is like a feature, and Joel's music again was spectacular, but the story that sort of came to mind in terms of the Ashen coming directly without a Stargate to Earth ended up being a component of one of the direct-to-video movies, indirectly. I mean, I can't even say it's the same, but it just felt like it stepped on it. So I think that that was the reason, and I may even be wrong about that.
I mean, because you were already planning the sort of Earth invasion for a different race, for a different storyline?
Yeah, something like that.
That's good. One of the things that I do on GateWorld is we sort of think of ourselves as chronicling the history of the show, the history of production, which is why I ask all these sort of backward-looking questions. I think a lot of people who have been around for a while, they know that there were a couple of movies that didn't get made. Joe and Paul's Stargate Extinction script for Atlantis, and I think it was you and Carl were working together on Stargate Revolution. Is that right?
Yeah, that's right. And the truth is, they not only didn't get made, they were really relatively early in their development. It's not like we had a script that we could have shot. We were still, we had first drafts, I think, and they were something we were planning to do like 6 months down the road. And it was because of the Continuum and Arc of Truth did very well for MGM as direct-to-video movies, and the market for a it was a good business model. It was a really solid business model, and it was a way, especially for Atlantis, to keep going, because the television model was arguably going to be difficult. And we loved doing it. Rob loved making Arc of Truth. I loved making Continuum, and I thought, man, I could make 2 of these a year for a while.
Right.
This would be great. And it was purely the collapse of the DVD market that triggered the sidelining of those projects. And it began as, could you just like put a hold on development for a couple of weeks, because we're getting some numbers here that are literally a month later. Yeah, I think we need to put just a stop on development on this for now, and just see how it. And then a month later, forget it. There's no way we can make these.
Well,
and Continuum was one of the last movies MGM released direct to DVD that made money.
Yeah. What I really want to ask about is the movie that didn't get as far, and most people probably don't know about, which is the one that you mentioned earlier in the live stream, a sort of combo team up of characters from all 3 shows to give some kind of conclusion to Destiny's story. How far did that get into development, and what can you share with us about what it was going to be?
I just started typing, Darren. I asked my boss at MGM, who was a huge Stargate fan and was kind of mortified by the fact that all this was happening. And I said, look, we have many millions of dollars worth of sets here that are going to have to get packed up and basically discarded. And if I can get a script in your hands quickly enough, I bet I can get the cast of SGU and bring aboard enough cast members from the other show that I could at least give us a 2-hour movie to wrap it up, or a 90-minute movie to wrap up SGU and finish the story that we were trying to tell. And I pitched him the rough idea I had for it, and it was rough. I mean, I was typing as fast as I could. And my process is not like I didn't whiteboard it. I just had this sort of structure in my head and concept of the characters from the other series that I was going to bring in, and I started writing it, started laying it out, and it started with McKay, and it began a recognition that Destiny was in trouble, and I don't want to go into the plot details, but the at the end of the day, before I really got into any, like 2 weeks into the process, I found out it's not going to happen. And even as we were going through it, it was, could you do it for this number? Could you do it for this number? And then it got to the point where, look, I've already taken my own producing fee out of the budget, but I can't take visual effects out of the budget.
You do it with hand puppets.
We can't. There comes a time where the desire to finish something doesn't line up with the financial resources to do it, and that was where it was already heading when I found out they're not interested. The new regime was just not remotely interested.
Mm. Yeah, that's my memory. Is that it was 2011, I think, by my reporting.
Yeah.
So this would have been after the bankruptcy, after there was a new set of people inside MGM.
Yes, it was. I was writing, but we had left the sets up out of the hope that we
Right.
could do that, and we funded it with. I can't remember how we funded it. We had an underage that season, and the truth is, it probably cost MGM a few bucks for that show of good faith and the hope that we could keep the flame alive, if you will. And that was sad because I was trying really hard. I mean, I just, I had been spoiled for so many years, Darren, of them saying, well, come up with another one. Well, come up with another one.
Mm-hmm.
And to have something that was not only out of my control, but out of the control of the executives at MGM I was working with. A structured bankruptcy means everybody goes home and a new regime comes in and takes over.
Yeah.
And the new regime was not interested.
Yeah. Well, we're on our 1 minute countdown. There's Lawrence. Let me ask you one last question. Kind of
Sure.
Looking forward, right? We've been pushing hard for a lot of years for your involvement in the next project, and if not your involvement, then the universe that you helped to build to continue on with that continuity. You've always said in interviews like here at the Companion and on your Reddit AMA that you think one of the core ideas about Stargate is that it's us. That these characters are relatable or they're contemporary. So Jerem FG on GateWorld asks, do you believe that here and now is still the secret ingredient to GateWorld's future success, even under this new paradigm of binge watching, serialization, streaming series? And then I'll just add to that by asking, in your mind, in new creative hands, is there room for something like a Stargate The Next Generation that's actually set a few decades in the future?
The answer is absolutely yes, because frankly, one of the difficulties, and I say this as somebody who would probably benefit from a in-canon continuation. I get the rationale for a reset, but a Next Generation is sort of a happy medium because it is sort of a reset. It is enough in the future that the world is different. But another thing that happened in Stargate, and I know, Lawrence, you're probably, but if you're next, I can make you wait, right?
I made you a promise at 89 minutes, and we are at 92. So
okay,
we'll go fast. We'll go fast. Okay. Darren, please answer.
The thing that you can't do if you do a future Earth is walk around Earth the way it is right now. You have to be. Earth has advanced, and I say this. I had this conversation with my producing partner Carrie Mudd about another idea that we had, and I said it's so hard to do the future. You can't. If you do something set 80 years from now, what do the cars look like? What does Earth look like? What are the social norms? What are the politics? You can't. It's a whole other world building in addition to the sci-fi component, right?
And everything has to be shot on sound stages.
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, and honestly, Star Trek is doing a pretty good job of it, of modern Earth. They really are. But they have a lot of money. They have a lot of money. So if you do that, then my suggestion is have a lot of money. Does that make sense?
Yeah, good answer. Thank you. It's always a joy. Thank you.
Thank you, Darren. And it's good to see you.
You too.
I appreciate the decades-long support.
Well, let's do it again.
Okay.
Thanks, Brad. We will, I guess, roll into our segment. I don't know if Tommy has a graphic. He might for us. He might not.
I bet he does. I have my Companion T-shirt.
I love it.
There.
I have been thinking about making Companion merch for myself, and I just think that's kind of cheesy, isn't it? So
Hey, I still have Stargate hats. I always grabbed a couple every year.
Well, next time I next time, as in the first time, we actually meet in person, you know, we can wear buddy, you know, Stargate hats.
Sure.
together.
Yeah. If you make companion hats, though, make me a visor, because I don't wear when I'm golfing.
You know what? Actually, okay. So we have these community members that we call companion champions. You know, they help us out, they give us feedback, etc. And I recently saw this really awesome line of Adidas like golf shirts and stuff, and I thought, you know what? Both the men and the women would look so good in these, almost like these kind of elite uniforms. If they had these like Adidas, you know, kind of companion, kind of like almost like uniforms, I guess. So I'll send you one if we end up, you know, printing out that line.
If you end up doing it, sure.
Yeah. I mean, I think we will. Yeah.
Not a triple extra large like the one you sent me last time. Just
it wasn't me. That was I was just gonna go double large. No. No. We'll work out those details. Yeah. So I think one thing, I mean, you know this a lot about the companion, is that I don't think about it as really like me or just Tommy or even like you and Rebecca, et cetera. It's not just like kind of the people who kind of work on the project and work here, but it really is, you know, all of the members, and they feed in, and they vote, and, you know, they, you know, pick scenes for like Stargate AI and things like that. And so I wanted to actually give some time to one of our members that we absolutely love, and you might even recognize her. Her name is Mara, and she was at your master class in writing about a year ago. So Tommy, if you could bring up Mara to ask a question.
Hi, Mara. I recognize you.
Hi. It's nice to see you.
You too.
I had a question. If you had switched lives with one of your characters for a day, who would it be, and how do you think you would do at each other's jobs?
At each other's jobs. That's so interesting. I would, you know, my instinct is, I don't know why I think of Rush. I guess because he was in charge, and I was in charge for a long time. and also because he would have no time at all for my job. He would be, come up with your silly stories, and I mean, my first instinct to that question too is Daniel, but I know only one language, and it's English, and I barely know that one. And I think Daniel would be very good at storytelling, because he would just borrow from the ancient histories of Earth and come up with some good old stories, I'm sure.
Mara, I think you're also wearing a very special shirt that we were all a project of. You can, yeah. Do you remember that? The Stargate.
Oh, that's McGillian.
Yeah.
The dog, yeah.
The dog McGillian. That's right.
That's hilarious. Yeah, that was funny. It freaked me out for just a second, but now I get there, then I remembered. That's great.
Mara, thank you so much.
Did I answer your question, Mara? Was it good?
Yeah.
Okay, good. Thank you.
We love Mara. Mara's so great.
Oh, I'm glad. I do remember her from the writers from the
I kind of wish that was broadcast. There's like such good information there. I think a lot of people would really benefit. So, you know, we've been kind of writing about it and kind of sharing some of those lessons. I mean, you know, recently, well, you introduced us to Amanda, right? The first time we ever did an AMA, like 3 years ago. And obviously Amanda's been, you know, a really huge part of, you know, what we've been doing. We've been doing these events called Embracing Mental Health as a Fandom. We do some like charity work sometimes. I'm just kind of catching you up a little bit, I guess. And last weekend also, you'll know that we did Jewel State's AMA, and it was raising money for wildfire, you know, relief. And you asked a question there.
All right. I remember that.
Yeah.
It was about
last week, I cut all the checks to the charities, and really this summer, you know, we haven't really caught up since this summer, but I cut checks for $17,000, and it's members like Mara and, you know, Gemma and Vicky and all the other people that have come to these events or have supported or donated. It's like, I mean, genuinely, I was just thinking, this is like, Ed McMahon, big check.
Yeah,
money, you know?
it is.
I didn't know, yeah, when we're thinking about doing, maybe we'll raise $1,000 here or there, but like 17,000.
That's a lot. That's a lot of money.
Yeah, it's pretty incredible.
That's fabulous.
So, yeah.
That's what community is, right? I mean, that's the difference between a bunch of people and community. And that's what you've managed to develop with the companion. It's correct. It's true.
Oh, thanks, Brad. But yeah, I mean, it's also what you developed, right? You created this show, and yet we could talk about mental health. We could talk about wildfire relief and cooking, and really, it's the bond of Stargate. But we can just talk about all of these other subjects because we got something to fall back on that connects us.
Yeah, that's the touchstone. That's the touchstone between us all.
Yeah.
Good. It's a classy thing.
So we got another video question. Really, it's a video comment, I think, from maybe your biggest fan, and he had a few words for the celebration.
Well, hello, Bradley. If you can guess who I am, then you're a step up on me. Here, let me help you. Yeah, it's me. It's Rick. Listen, what is it? Birthday? Some kind of celebration for you, buddy. You deserve it. What? No, I don't take direction well. All right, buddy, you know I love you, but I'm starting to love Felix better than you, more than you, but it'll be short-lived. I'll get back to you. Congratulations on whatever this is. See ya.
I love that guy. He's great. It was so kind of him to comb his hair before he came on, and
He looked pretty good. We didn't have to do any kind of editing or anything. Looked great.
He kills me. He just kills me. I had a hard time hearing it, but I got the gist.
We'll send it to you. We'll send it to you afterwards.
Okay, please do.
Yeah. Well, I mean, kind of speaking to Rick, and a year ago we did that Stargate Legacy with me, you, and Rick, and it was around Stargate.
And my mom.
And your mom. And your mom.
Don't leave her out. She was the hit of that particular show.
Oh, absolutely,
Yeah.
absolutely, yeah. And the painting. It was just the whole thing. The whole thing was awesome. Yeah, I love that event. We're kind of continuing this I'm kind of like jumping ahead, but we're doing this again next week, right? Another Stargate Legacy, but this time with Window of Opportunity. So we'll talk about that in a second. But hopefully it'll be lots of touching moments in that one too. But getting to Children of the Gods, and a year ago, I had pinged you because I remember in that conversation, we talked about effectively in the pilot and that script, the new Stargate. And so I just want to make sure I get the description right. You kind of called it, right? It was like a gleaming metal Stargate, different than any we've ever seen before, and it is entirely of human design. And I think I remember you were describing it to Rick. You were saying, it would kind of speed up a little bit different, right? It'd be like chong 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 chong. Like
that's right.
That kind of idea. Yeah. Can you describe a little bit more about like what you were thinking with the new Stargate?
Well, we have retrofitted and updated and used ancient technologies and Stargate technologies all through all three shows, and each series had its own iconic Stargate. SG was the original one found in the desert. Atlantis was the digital one, which had a different look and feel and texture. And of course, the one aboard Destiny was the oldest of all, and had that cool. I love the design. James Robbins designed that one, and it looked like the Destiny itself. The chevrons within the Stargate were that shape, But so I thought we needed a new one, and I thought, well, we can't find one. So because one of my goals was to go to yet another galaxy, I'm giving away too much information again. And to do that, we would have needed another a human-built, purpose-built Stargate. And I just thought it would be really cool, not to take work away from Gary Jones, but to not have to go Chevron 1 encoded at a snail's pace, but to just have the sequence initiate and to have the whole thing spin really like powerfully and then kawoosh. I thought that would be really cool.
Well,
And
we'll have to hit the button or something, right?
Maybe they'll do it. Maybe they'll do something like it. I don't know. Who knows?
And like, would you imagine it if it's going to be a human-made Stargate? Is it necessarily materials from Earth? Is it like other planets that we visited already?
I would have to sit with our production designer before I started talking about that stuff. But I had this image of actual glass, like of actual parts of it being transparent and being able to see through components of it, and I just wanted it to look powerful and human built. I just wanted it to have those qualities. And Carter would have her hands all over it, right? It would have been her brainchild.
That feels really, obviously, really modern, right? That kind of aesthetic.
Yeah, it would look great.
Really
It would look great.
today. Yeah.
Don't make me cry, Lawrence.
We'll cry together. We're gonna figure this out. So I had a question, kind of a little bit, where actually behind you is the Guinness World Record, I believe. Would you?
Oh, sorry. Yes,
yeah.
I'm not weird.
Would you mind sharing that? Because that's the Stargate Guinness World Record, right?
So this is the certificate, the actual certificate from the Guinness. I think that record has since been beat, but yeah. This is me. This is me.
Oh yeah.
Outside of a fighter jet that I actually got to fly, which is very cool.
Incredible.
And this is my photograph as a gift from Eric McCormack of me and my producing partner, Carrie Mudd, giving her feelings to that photograph.
Yeah.
These are some of my precious things in my office that I quite enjoy.
Yeah. No, I mean, I knew the Guinness
She's
World
going to
Record
give me
was
shit
there.
for showing that.
No, I thought, with this being Stargate Celebration, I thought it'd be pretty cool for fans to be able to see at least the Guinness World Record. I mean, they, I guess in a small/big way, helped make that happen, I guess.
Thomasina Gibson basically said, I think you deserve a Guinness Book of Records thing. And I went, really? Do we qualify? And she said, yes. And she basically just called them and they went, yeah, absolutely. And so it happened. It was cool. It's Thomasina's work, really.
Oh, very cool. All right. Well, I think our 10 minutes are up, Brad.
Oh, so, really?
As promised.
Jeez, it seems like I've only been talking for a day and a half, Lawrence.
Not to me. No.
We're down. No, not to you. Not to you.
Yeah, you need
down
water?
to 11 viewers. There's only 11 people left.
Oh no. We are
maybe
hitting,
among them. Hi, Mom.
Yeah. We're hitting record numbers actually.
Okay.
I think it's almost actually to the point of nearly 1,000. I think some people were tallying it up, over 800 people live. That's
great.
Yeah.
Hey, everybody follow me on X or Twitter or whatever it's called. Brad Travelers.
Yeah.
I want to see how many people follow me if I ask them to.
Yeah. Do it.
Yeah.
Oh, one more thing. I was going to actually kind of update you on this and then kind of explain it. So I think it was 2 or 3 weeks ago, Lawrence Moroney and I, so for those of you who might not know, Lawrence Moroney actually built Stargate AI, one of the projects that we all worked on together, and obviously Brad helmed. So Oxford invited Oxford University invited
Yeah, you
me.
told me about this. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then I completely forgot. I was even going to put you.
Yeah, because it would have been great for you to be there.
Oh well.
Yeah.
I was traveling. I was flying in the air all over the place at that time.
Yeah. Now, Tommy and I went. So Tommy's one of the producers here with Lawrence. And, it was fun because obviously I'm very lucky. I went to Oxford and I've been in that building a million times and this kind of thing. And then it struck me, not only was it at the business school, later Lawrence gave a reference to the project in the Sheldonian. And the Sheldonian is like that kind of 500, 600-year-old style building where genuinely people like J.R.R. Tolkien, myself, Bill Clinton, heads of states, fantasy writers, people who discovered DNA, we all have to matriculate and graduate there. And it was like, it hit me, whoa, Stargate and Stargate AI is in the Sheldonian, and it's the oldest school in English speaking history, and I guess I want to ask you one final question in terms of Stargate and its legacy, and like, I guess being in an Oxford, I don't know, do you have any thoughts on that? And
let's just say I would not have been qualified to get into Oxford on any subject. I'm envious of the experience that you had going there, and the just in the oldness of the place, of the knowing the minds that have taught and have learned there. It's to have Stargate even discussed in that context seems kind of remarkable to me.
There were a ton of fans. A ton of fans came back and said, like, "Oh my goodness, I didn't know Stargate AI existed. I love Stargate growing up. All of that. It was definitely like you would be at any convention or, just talking to fans. It was the same thing there. So
that's cool. That's really cool.
You got a lot of fans everywhere.
It's you never know, right? And you meet somebody and at a dinner party or wherever, and they. I said, well, so you're a writer. Have you made anything that I made before? And I always say Travelers because that's the most recent. And they go, no, I've never watched that. Well, and then Stargate, and then then that's the whole evening. They just want to talk about Stargate. And then some people go, oh yeah, I've seen that, and that's fine with me. It's not everybody's cup of tea, but it's really remarkable when a genuine fan gets going on it. It's as evidenced by today.
Yeah, I had to not look at the comment section, so I literally have 799 unread comments because it was coming in so fast. It was
That's
distracting me from hosting and doing timing and everything like that. So yeah,
I'm glad it worked out, and I hope my iPad was a suitable replacement for.
Oh yeah.
Oh good.
Yeah. Well, we're gonna hopefully continue this conversation, and that's why we kind of try to keep our segment short. I think we've actually gone long now, so I've broken the trust of all the partners. But for everyone else who wants to see us and kind of Stargate legacy and Brad, talk about Stargate, continue next Saturday actually. We'll be talking about Window of Opportunity, Joseph Malazzi, Paul Mulley. They'll all be back, so hopefully you and the writing crew will be able to reminisce and maybe shed some light on the episode.
Cool.
Yeah. And so just a kind of last note about the companion and everything else, we're trying to do events basically every 2 weeks. This has kind of been an unusual time where last week we had an event today and then next week. And so hopefully people like what we do and they kind of sign up to us if they haven't heard about us before. And we got a pretty cool offer going on right now. So hopefully we'll see more members too, Brad, at the next kind of live stream.
It's pretty great. Companion's pretty great. There's a lot of stuff there. There's a lot of good resources, and I've written essays for you guys, and there's a podcast there. It's fun. It's great. I love it.
Nice. All right. So we're gonna bring back in all of the other guests. I think some of them had to potentially jump off, but hopefully most of them will
It was just Christina that
That's
did.
Christina. Okay. Okay.
She has mom duties, so
Yeah, absolutely.
yeah.
So I wanted to just say a final thank you to Brad. Obviously, a final thank you to everyone else who has come and joined here. And I wanted to just give everyone kind of one final note. I'll start with everyone at, one at a time. And so Rebecca, I don't know if you want to start.
Oh, wow. On the spot. Thank you so much, Brad. This has been amazing. I have the job that I have now because of the universe that you co-created. So it's much appreciated. And yeah, that's what I have to say. Thank you so much.
You're welcome, and thank you. Thank you. I love that you have a job.
Jay or Matt, how has this experience kind of been for you two?
It's just mental. It's not right. I don't know. I think I told you this, Brad, but you actually followed me on Twitter on my birthday this year. So my kids bought me presents, and I was like, "Yeah, Brad Wright followed me on Twitter." That's a nice watch. Brad Wright followed me on Twitter. So
I'm sorry. I apologize to your family. I'm sure it was.
My wife hates you.
Yeah,
She's like,
yeah.
"Who the hell is this Brad Wright, and why have you been talking about him for the last 4 hours?" But no, it's just crazy that I started my little channel talking about a show I loved, and now I get to do things like this. It's amazing. Thank you. Just thank you.
I enjoyed chatting with you too, Jay.
Speak to you soon.
Cool, Matt. Do you have any quick word or anything like that?
Could you just say?
Yeah.
No. Can you just say "shut up, Matt" for me? Just because everyone in my thing has asked me to tell you to do it. Please. Just shut up, Matt.
Go on, Brad. You can say it. You can say it.
It's okay. No, keep going.
No, he wants you. He wants you to say "shut up, Matt."
I'm not going to do that, Jay. I don't do that.
It's a thing on our channel. I don't know why it's a thing.
I know.
But...
I know.
I just want to say thank you for creating or co-creating the show that I love. Thank you to everyone here for this event.
Man. I'm kidding.
Yes.
Sorry, I'm sorry.
Clip that.
Like
clip that.
I had to swing at that. I'm sorry, buddy. It felt wrong, but.
Well, thank you for that, Brad. Thank you.
No, you're welcome.
Yeah, thank you to everyone. This has been fantastic and
good. I'm glad.
Shut up, Brad.
Whoa! No.
It's okay. It's okay. It's okay. I have broad shoulders.
Yeah. David.
I can only apologize.
I know it's mushy, and I told you this years ago, but it's true. And my father and I are very close, but I was only allowed to watch, PBS and Star Trek when I was growing up until like 8 or 9 years old. Wasn't allowed cartoons or anything like that. And then sci-fi is like a part of me. And, I consider my sci-fi dads to be, Roddenberry and Berman and Cooper and Glassner and Wright. So thank you.
Wow. Cool.
Wow.
And thank you, Aaron, for finding me and making me a part of something that I can continue to be thankful for. There's a segue for you.
Good segue.
Yeah, Darren.
Hey, guys, it's just amazing that we get to do this. So I want to say thank you to the companion. Thank you to Sidetrack. Thank you to Three Fries, Dial the Gate. This is kind of an amazing thing that Stargate fandom is this cool, and that we have this kind of platform, and that we have the people who made the content that we love so much. Sorry, I'm not supposed to call it content. The art that we love so much here, and still willing to talk about it all these years later. So thank you, Brad, for giving us your time. Stargate is becoming an intergenerational thing, and it has been for years, right? We've heard stories for so many years about people who introduced their kids to the show. Well, I finally introduced my kids to the show on the umpteenth rewatch. And you know what? Just last night, we finished Atlantis. So we've watched 2 of your 3 shows so far with my 3 kids. And now I get to have that experience of sharing that thing that I love so much with them. And that's always going to be a part of our lives. So thank you.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. I love I love hearing that, and I love it when new generations find a show that I started over 25 years ago. It's remarkable.
All right. Well, thank you, everyone. Thank all the fans for coming too and sending in all the questions. And like what Darren said, please follow GateWorld, Dial the Gate, Sidetrack, 3 Fries Short. And if you want to come next weekend to Stargate Legacy, you could do that too on the Companion.
Thank
All
you,
right.
Lawrence, and thank you,
Thank
Companion.
you. Great
for making
job.
this
Great
awesome.
job. I'm glad it all worked out.
Awesome. Thanks all.
This is technologically quite difficult.
It is. Yeah.
But thank you to Rick. Too.
And Rick. Yeah.
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 Okay. I really have to pee now. So I'm going to go. Bye.
Yeah. See you guys.
Bye, Brad.